Hey man, welcome back to this YouTube channel. My name is Salvador Briggman, and whether you're launching a Kickstarter campaign or an Indiegogo campaign, I think you're really gonna benefit from today's video because we're getting into a critical element, new feature and phase when it comes to launching a crowdfunding campaign. On this channel, we talk about really turning your ideas, your creative ideas, and breathing life into them. I'd say even going beyond that though, it's really about turning your passion into profit, building wealth online and doing it in a way that's ethically, according to what your values are and making sure that we do it right. So in today's video, I'm gonna be comparing these two feature sets and also what this means for you, for creators that are launching campaigns. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and it's coming up right after this. All right, so let's get into the video, and I would say that I'm gonna structure this in sort of three major segments. The first is gonna be going through the feature specifically when it comes to Kickstarter late pledges and also Indiegogo InDemand. Number two, we're gonna get into some pros and some cons when it comes to these two platforms and also feature sets. Number three, we're gonna finish off with some crowdfunding advice and tips for anyone who is launching a crowdfunding campaign and wants to be more successful than their neighbor or for someone else who's launching in your category. So first of all, just a tiny bit of history. Indiegogo, I would say benefited a lot from Kickstarter's lack of action. And I was screaming this at the rooftops for many, many years, which is the fact that Kickstarter has not innovated enough when it comes to their functionality. But recently, they have been making strides and they are doing that. So historically, what would end up happening is that many of my students and my clients, people who have read my book, the Kickstarter launch formula, or have done coaching sessions with me, etc., they would go from a Kickstarter campaign, which has been successful, and port that over to Indiegogo InDemand. And they would continue to raise funds there. To give you an example, I've had students and clients that literally double the amount that they raise, whether that's with Indiegogo InDemand or other tools as well, like BackerKit, where you can continue to raise funds after the campaign is done. Not many people are aware, but this is what's called the post-crowdfunding phase. So in analysis, putting this to an analysis, we really want to think about the post-crowdfunding phase and how do these two feature sets compare. So when it comes to this, you're going live with a crowdfunding campaign, right? There's many different things that are happening behind the scenes before and after, and you should be much more aware of this as you're going. It's not just hitting that launch button, right, and going live. You quickly kind of realize there's actually a lot, right, that goes into the campaign launch, but it's actually worth the investment of time to understand that because you could be doing a 5, a 6, or even a 7-figure campaign launch. And the post-crowdfunding phase happens after you've had a successful fundraising campaign. So let's first start with Kickstarter when it comes to the Kickstarter late pledges feature. So with the Kickstarter late pledges feature, first of all, there's a couple of steps that you gotta go through in order to use this. Number one, you gotta have a successful, fully funded or overfunded Kickstarter campaign in order to go into this program. Number two, you gotta opt into it. So it's not something you can just automatically go into. You actually have to say, yes, I want to go into the Kickstarter late pledges feature toolset, and I want to use this when the campaign is over. They've done some really great research, and according to their early testing, they were able to increase the amount that was raised for the creators that were participating by 35%. By using the Kickstarter late pledges feature. So make sure you enable that if you've been successful. Number two is you gotta select the rewards that you actually wanna make available during the post-crowdfunding campaign phase. So you're gonna have a bunch of rewards, and if you do it right, and you do what I talk about in my book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, available on Audible and Amazon, you can actually have different early bird rewards, limited duration or limited quantity rewards, right? In the post-crowdfunding campaign phase, you gotta identify what are the rewards you want to make available to those people when they come to the project after it's already been over or it's been completed. So that would be the next step. And number three is really just sitting back and letting the dough roll in, right? Letting that momentum you built kind of translate into more and more backers and more pledges. But I would say there's actually a lot more to do, right, when it comes to that. And I will cover that in the third section when it comes to this video. All right, so we talked a little bit about Kickstarter late pledges. Let's talk about Indiegogo InDemand. So Indiegogo InDemand is a bit of a different beast because you can be on Indiegogo and go into Indiegogo InDemand, or you can be on Kickstarter and go into Indiegogo InDemand. So if you're going just from Indiegogo to Indiegogo InDemand, you just have to opt into the InDemand feature. It's really easy. And there's a 5% fee, similar to the platform fee, going into Indiegogo InDemand. When it comes to going from Kickstarter to Indiegogo InDemand, you're actually going through more of what I call porting the campaign over. It's more of like a porting over phase, and they will help you set up the Indiegogo InDemand campaign. They have a great tool when it comes to that does everything very quickly and automatically. And you just have to make sure that you start the campaign there and opt in to the Indiegogo InDemand feature. And I believe their team will then help you from that point on. So this is kind of where if you look at Indiegogo InDemand, you see Indiegogo, you're gonna have different campaigns, and on it, one is gonna say something like, oh, this is raised, $500,000 on another platform. Typically that platform is Kickstarter. And then they are continuing to raise money on Indiegogo. So that's how it's gonna appear on Indiegogo InDemand. Very similar to Kickstarter. You then just have to experience the momentum, continue to drive traffic, continue to market it, and you can continue to collect pledges, and you can maintain being in that Indiegogo InDemand. I've had clients and students that are in that for like months if they want to, while they're getting set up with other platforms like Shopify, or if they're selling it in other places. All right, so let's talk pros and let's get into some of the cons when it comes to these two feature sets. And if you like the role that I play in this industry when it comes to bringing my passion and my enthusiasm to the game of crowdfunding, if you like the way that I explain this and break it down, definitely take a second to give me a thumbs up on this video and come subscribe for more content just like this. My name is Sal, as I mentioned before. But when it comes to some of these pros and cons, I want to first start with Kickstarter when it comes to the Kickstarter late pledges feature, because it's a new feature set, right, when it comes to the platform. So the first pro that I see with Kickstarter, we really have to actually as well think about Indiegogo, which is that the pro that I identify is really the platform fee is much lower if you go into Kickstarter late pledges. And that's because there's only a 5% platform fee in order to go into Kickstarter late pledges, which is great, which is the exact same if you were running a successful Kickstarter campaign. You're gonna pay a 5% fee as long as you hit or exceed your funding goal. However, if we compare that to Indiegogo InDemand, you're actually paying more like an 8% fee if you port over from Kickstarter to Indiegogo. I want to make sure that I get this right, so I'm actually going to read this out loud to you. According to Indiegogo's website, platform fee, Indiegogo charges a 5% platform fee across all crowdfunding campaigns. If you are in our Indiegogo InDemand platform and ran a campaign on Indiegogo, your platform fee remains 5%. The InDemand fee for campaigns that did not originally run on Indiegogo is an 8% platform fee with a 15% total fee on any funds driven by Indiegogo's platform channels. Third-party payment processing fees also apply. So I've said this before in other videos, man, which is that Indiegogo needs to be way more transparent with their copy and their text on their website and give examples, give very clear examples as well. But you can take that to mean, interpret that as you'd like, but at the very least, there's an 8% fee going from Kickstarter to Indiegogo. And according to them, if certain pledges are originating from their marketplace or their channels, as they said, there might even be a larger fee when it comes to that. Now, what is one of the cons of going with Kickstarter late pledges? So one of the biggest cons that I see is the fact that if you've been successful with a Kickstarter campaign, you have to stay on Kickstarter. You have to stay within the Kickstarter ecosystem, which at a certain point in time, you might tap out your category or even the platform when it comes to people that are interested in your latest invention, tabletop, card game, comic book, film or TV project, right? Book that you're launching, whatever it is, new invention, right? You might actually tap out the platform or the ecosystem, and there's not any more people, backers or super backers, who are actually interested when it comes to your market. So I see that as a major con because you're kind of limiting the scope of what is possible. And at this channel, I'm all about reaching your full potential and dreaming big, right? When it comes to doing that. So I see that as a con, the fact you gotta stay on the platform and you can't really branch out any kind of way. The only way to really combat that is if, again, you continue to market, promote, and drive traffic to that sucker. But still, at that same time, there's going to be a limit to the activity which you can have. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillment today. Link in the description. The downside is you gotta do, to go back to my kind of econ roots, I studied economics at George Washington, you gotta do a cost-benefit analysis. So you gotta really examine, okay, depending on the ecosystem variability, is it going to make sense to go to another platform based on my category? And number two, based on the higher fees which I'm paying, does that make sense as well in terms of the costs that I'm going to be incurring as a result of launching on this other platform? Another benefit that I see when it comes to doing a Kickstarter campaign is the fact that you are now under the Kickstarter umbrella or the brand name. And that brand name has a lot of trust when it comes to launching a campaign. A lot of people recognize that, they trust that, and they're willing to do a transaction, or they have in the past when it comes to doing a transaction on the website. So I do see that as a major pro. As a con, there's also a negative connotation to doing a Kickstarter campaign because of some of the horrible bad actors and scams that have happened in this ecosystem. Some people might see a big funded project and be like, this is just another one of those. So there might be even more skepticism around that. So you have to combat those. There's a benefit is that people are gonna recognize it more, and it's gonna be great for people that love Kickstarter. At the same time, people are gonna recognize it more, right? And it might be bad if they have negative connotations in their mind about that platform. One other pro I want to mention when it comes to Indiegogo InDemand is the fact that, and this is again my opinion, but I will say that my opinions do tend to be well researched, and I do tend to have a lot of industry knowledge, having interviewed people every single week that are launching campaigns, and also being very aware of what's happening behind the scenes throughout the industry. But it is my opinion, and that is the fact that I think that Indiegogo is much more focused on e-commerce nowadays. And I think they're also much more business-minded when it comes to a platform and the team there itself. So for example, if you have a really great campaign you've run on Kickstarter, you port it over to Indiegogo InDemand, and there's already a consumer base out there, they are probably going to do their utmost to push that project to their backers and their super backers, particularly if it's very well designed, it's a great innovation, it's something new. They have a vested interest to help you out when it comes to their marketing channels, their email marketing, their promotion, all that kind of stuff. And they're already trying to work with companies that are proven via their trust proven program to help them when it comes to their future launches and also when it comes to e-commerce. So it might be a bit of a longer play when it comes to that. As a con, one of the major cons I would say is the fact that unfortunately, if you're going from Kickstarter to Indiegogo, there is a difference in the platform. And whenever there's an interruption like that in marketing, for example, if you're running like ads and your landing page looks very different from your ads, right? There's always gonna be people who are confused and are like, what is this new Indiegogo platform? I don't understand what this is, right? And then they're gonna not take action. Confused people never buy. So you're gonna drop a little bit when it comes to your conversions, and you're kind of betting that the ecosystem is going to make up for that. So there's naturally going to be a bit of a disconnect as people are going from Kickstarter to Indiegogo, or if people are then discovering you there throughout your community. At this point in the video, if you're feeling a tiny bit confused or worried or concerned, even just want more clarity on doing one of these launches, I have a great option out there that's available for people that are serious, that are going into a campaign launch. If you want to do this right, if you want to build the right foundation, and you also want to make sure that you're dotting your I's, you're crossing your T's, and more importantly, that you make the most out of this successful campaign experience. If your campaign goes well, I'm telling you, you can literally lay tens of thousands of dollars on one of these platforms. So it's an extremely important event to get right. And if you want to make sure you get it right, I have an option out there for my individual coaching call option, which is you can go down below, you can click the form, you can learn more about this, you can fill out and tell me more about you, what you're trying to do, what is your goals are, what type of project you have, and you can get an individual coaching call scheduled with me ASAP. This is where I can dive into this vast resource of information I have in this brain over the last 10 years, understanding what works and what doesn't for very specific types of campaigns, categories, and also products, and it can apply that to yours. So this is an investment, but definitely a well worth it investment at that. So go down below and book your individual coaching call at the link in the description or at crowdcrux.com/coaching. All right, so let's get into the third section of this video. And this third section is really about the advice and tips that I have when it comes to being in the post-crowdfunding campaign phase. So there's a lot to be said about this phase. And one of the things that I talked about in my book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, is this idea or this principle, this tenet of crowdfunding, which is momentum. So momentum is incredibly important. And the reason why goes beyond even the Kickstarter velocity of funding algorithm or the Indiegogo InDemand, go-go factor algorithm. It goes beyond those two. Momentum is incredibly important because it gets people to take action. And if you do what I talk about in that book, you will have a ton of momentum towards the end of the campaign. And then what ends up happening is there's this other variable, there's other tenet of crowdfunding, which is called fear of missing out, FOMO, right? So when people have that momentum which is going, and they feel like they're gonna miss out on a sale, what ends up happening is their sales shoot through the roof, right? Your funding graph goes like this, and you start getting tons of backers and pledges towards the end of the campaign. And you see this upward trajectory, right? That's happening. Really exciting, really cool. But at the same time, a lot of the students that I have are like, I don't know, this campaign is ending soon. Do I really want to pour and invest my time and my capital into continuing to market it and promote itself? And here's what I say. You're thinking too small. Extend the runway, right? Now you have an option. Now you have a way where not only can you get a surge of pledges at the end of the campaign, but all the investment you're putting into building that snowball of momentum continues into the post-crowdfunding campaign phase of late pledges. And again, I've had students that have done 50% more in funding, have doubled the amount that they've raised. This is totally worth it to make sure that you're investing in the momentum towards the end of the campaign. The second tip that I would like to give you in this post-crowdfunding campaign phase actually kind of goes back to my roots, which is that when I was living and I grew up in a small town in Massachusetts, I loved to play a lot of different sports. I played tennis, I did fencing, I did baseball, etc. And across all of my sports, I had one kind of sticking point. And sticking point is something that you're always working to overcome and grow beyond because we're trying to reach our full potential. For me, that was follow through, right? When I was doing fencing, my coach was all like, Sal, you gotta follow through, right, with your game. Or when I was doing tennis, my coach was like, you gotta follow through, Sal, with your swing because it'd be more powerful and more accurate. So when you are doing a crowdfunding campaign, one of the biggest mistakes that I tend to see is the lack of follow through. And that's important when it comes to specifically the follow through of your communications as you're entering that post-crowdfunding phase. By that, I mean updates, emails, social media, when it comes to the development of the product or the mass production of it or the shipping, the rewards, the logistics. The reason why follow through is so important is not for even you necessarily. It's because those people that are looking, that are on the fence, and haven't yet backed it or recently just discovered it, they're going to see that activity and it's going to make them feel relaxed about actually backing and supporting this. Versus if there's no follow through, they're going to see no activity and they're like, wait, is this thing still going on? Is this creator actually delivering on the rewards? Is the product even in development? They're going to wonder all these negative things. So by following through, you prevent that from happening and you increase your conversion rates, and more people that have not backed you will then start to back you with your campaign. The third and final tip I want to give you in the post-crowdfunding campaign phase is that this is a great opportunity. And I'm sure that, I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Many of my students are not perfect, but that doesn't mean that we don't strive for perfection in a launch. It doesn't mean we don't still try to do our utmost to reach our full potential. It doesn't mean that we shy away from a challenge or from improvements. Me and my team at CrowdCrux, we are always improving, and you should be as well. So at this point in time, it's a great time to evaluate and to take stock of what went well with your live crowdfunding campaign and what you want to improve on. So for example, maybe you didn't do PR or marketing. Maybe you didn't do email marketing. Maybe you didn't run Facebook ads or anything like that. Maybe you didn't do Reels or TikTok posts when you were live with your Kickstarter and you were kicking yourself. You're like, I should have done that. I would have raised more. This is a great opportunity to just now do that in your post post-crowdfunding phase. So do an evaluation and analysis of what went well, what you missed out on, and what you should incorporate into your post-crowdfunding phase. If you want help with that, and again, more importantly, if you wanna do this launch right, you wanna dot your I's, you wanna cross your T's, you wanna make sure this goes in your favor, and you're willing to surround yourself with the right people and to have a mentor on your side, go down below and book your individual coaching call today. Don't put this off. It's always a little bit challenging, right, to do that if you've never had one or you never had a mentor. This is your first time really going into your first launch. It's always a little bit scary and uncertain. I'm telling you, my friends, you gotta be suited up, armed up, you gotta have access to that war chest of tools and things that can actually help you going into this campaign. And one of those is making sure that you have the right foundation for this project. So go down below and book your individual coaching call today. Fill out that form, tell me more about you, and we can get that call scheduled ASAP. I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Salvador Briggman. If you did enjoy it, come subscribe to this channel because I post content regularly every single week. And give me a thumbs up if you did like this video as well. Leave a positive comment, but my name is Sal, and I'll see you next time.